trouble just waiting for American boys. Thursday.
Going out alone poses a ton more risks.
I gotta make it back to camp.
We gotta move, honey. I need this. Getting drenched in the cold is a serious hypothermia situation.
And all new Great Wild North. Thursday at 10 on History. After 50 years of designing cars for crash survival, Subaru has developed our most revolutionary feature yet. A car that can see trouble and stop itself to avoid it. When the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety tested front crash prevention, nobody beat Subaru models with eyesight. Not Honda, not Ford, or any other brand. Subaru Eyesight. An extra set of eyes every time you drive.
Americans, we try to live healthy, but many of us don't know there are nutrients that can help support our metabolism. Take new one-a-day Healthy Metabolism Support Multivitamin with chromium to help use carbs from food and B vitamins to help convert food to fuel. One a day.
Yes, we are twins. When I went on to Ancestry, I just put in the name of my parents and my grandparents. And I was getting all these leads, and I was going back generation after generation. You start to see documents, and you see signatures of people that you've never met. I mean, you don't know these people, but you feel like you do. You get connected to them. I wish that I could get into a time machine and go back 100 years, 200 years, and just meet these people. Being on Ancestry, it just made me feel like I belong somewhere.
Discover your story. Start searching for free now at Ancestry.com.
What puts you at risk for identity theft?
A breach of my health insurer.
Maybe stores I shop at?
Going online. $16 billion were stolen from identity fraud victims last year. And there's a new victim every 2 seconds. Are you next?
What do you do about identity theft? LifeLock is here to help. With award-winning protection, we can warn you about identity threats and provide identity restoration assistance at no extra cost. Obviously, no one can prevent all identity theft. We'll spend up to $1 million on experts to help set things right.
You can't control identity theft, but you can get the best identity protection available. Call 800-341-6120 and use promo code HELP to get LifeLock risk-free for 60 days. Or go to lifelock.com. Act now to also get this document shredder, a $29 value, free. Enroll in minutes. Protection starts immediately. LifeLock.
At Casper, we make one perfect mattress for knitters, physically fitters, and even big wigs. Fighters, deep-sea divers, whatever your gig, single, hitched, or it's complicated, a Casper keeps you rejuvenated. Because there's one way to sleep that's second to none. Casper, the perfect mattress for everyone.
If you don't think ending hunger when you think AARP, then you don't know ARP. Our drive to end hunger has donated 31 million meals and counting. Find more real possibilities at aarp.org/possibilities.
Halloween had been on a dark and scary journey from its origins with the Celts centuries ago. In the Middle Ages, it became a Christian holiday honoring the dead. But by the 16th century, it was turning into a rowdy kids' celebration, marked by begging and pranks. By the 1800s, Halloween had even moved into cities and towns across America. But the ghastly face of Halloween was reimagined in gruesome shades of orange and black at the turn of the 20th century. For the first time, artists of the era brought together all things scary and linked them to Halloween. Skeletons and spiderwebs, jack-o'-lanterns and bats. They established the look of Halloween that we still use today. Among these icons are white-sheeted ghosts.
The sheet that a ghost wears derives from the winding sheet, the shroud that corpses were traditionally wrapped in before burial.
And jack-o'-lanterns.
The big grin still connotes the rictus of a death's head, as does the triangular nose hole. And even when it seems kind of jolly, death is still lurking there in the imagery.
Horned devils came from medieval depictions of Satan. And witches from witch hunting hysteria that swept through Europe and Puritan America.
Witches became very popular in the early part of the 20th century, which is why they naturally became linked to Halloween. There's actually a change in the way we perceive witches. The witches of the 19th century were old, they had big noses, and there were warts. And the witches in the 20th century are actually kind of attractive. It makes Halloween just a little, not only scary, but also a little naughty.
But even as Halloween was dressing its old customs in new costumes, it was also creating new traditions. Bad ones. Was Halloween in the early 20th century getting out of hand? To the dismay of authorities and property owners, the answer was yes.
It was whatever you could think of. It was a bunch of mischief. Back in those days, people had buggies. The bigger kids tried to take a buggy and put it up on a haystack. And there's about a half a dozen of the guys, and they just kind of pushed it up the haystack. It was a lot of fun. Oh, we never did anything that was really destructive. Mostly tricks.
But for others, those tricks were more destructive. Pranks, usually committed by adolescent boys, plagued cities like Chicago and Philadelphia. By the 1920s, Halloween in America was turning into a crisis. Tricks on Halloween night were out of hand.
The destructive pranks went beyond just smashing pumpkins. Kids would take bars of soap, and they'd put them in the rails for streetcars so that the streetcars would derail and people would actually get hurt. They would take the steps in front of people's doors and move them so when people walked outside they would fall over and get hurt. They would set fires. They would throw stones through windows. I mean, this is really destructive stuff.
In rural communities, pranksters took wagons apart and reassembled them on roofs. They removed gates on farm fences so that animals could escape. This particular prank was so popular that in some places the night before Halloween was called Gate Night. In other cities it was Mischief Night, or even Hell Night. Halloween pranks during the Great Depression may have been, in part, a product of the desperation of the time, an excuse for troublemaking. But there was already trouble everywhere, and many communities couldn't afford to feed their own, much less clean up destructive messes.
The Halloween of 1933 was actually labeled Black Halloween in a lot of newspapers because of all of the destruction that the cities incurred. The kids were no longer just doing innocent, silly things. Now they were smashing light bulbs. They were setting fire to buildings. They were smashing car windows.
If Halloween were to survive, it would have to change.